If you love hurricanes, daiquiris, and, well, any rum cocktail, listen up. Captain Morgan's about to shake things up like never before. We're talking Bourbon Street, New Orleans, home to legendary drinks and unforgettable moments. But what if we told you the most iconic cocktails here have one thing in common? Hint, it's not bourbon. That's right, it's rum. And Captain Morgan is bringing unforgettable fun to Bourbon Street in a way you won't want to miss. Get ready for something big as we gear up for Super Bowl 59. Make sure to keep your eyes on NOLA's most iconic street. Who knows, Bourbon Street might just need a new name. Stay tuned for clues and get ready for the most legendary adventure yet. Please drink responsibly. Captain Morgan Original Spice Rum, 35% alcohol by volume. Captain Morgan Rum Company, New York, New York.
All right, here it is, ladies and gentlemen. It's top 5 time. Evan Bevins, tell the people, what was this again?
Well, I believe that you and your AI associate had suggested the most efficient cards, which I thought was interesting. Then I remembered a friend of mine with whom I played many rounds of the collectible card game Overpower. I would pile every card I wanted in massive decks with 100 or more cards. If you had doubles, you had to discard them. So I would be discarding 2 or 3 cards a hand, and he would have this small deck, and he would have every card he needed. And he was a smart guy. He's a doctor now. He figured out the odds. He seemed to always have whatever card he needed and had the right proportions. And I was like, so we could really figure out what are the most efficient cards. And I'm probably not going to do that, but somebody smarter than me will. So I said, let's take the numbers off of it. Let's just say the cards that give you the most bang for your buck.
I like
that. Makes it a little more subjective. So it was your suggestion, and I said, Jesse, you ignorant slut, let's do something different. Let's dumb it down a bit.
Let me ask you a question. Figure out, you and I agree on what the list is going to be, but our application may be different sometimes.
Yeah.
I'll tell you what went into my thinking. I included cards that are good or really good in combos. Okay. So I kind of swung back and forth like, well, am I talking about the best combo or am I talking about the card? And I'm thinking that I justify picking a card that works really well in a combo, because if it didn't work well, the combo wouldn't exist. Yeah. And this is an essential part of the game. And if you can get it to work a certain way, it could really turn things around. So that's kind of what I went with.
Yeah, I thought of mine at first. I was thinking mine a little more with like I put a little more emphasis on the card itself.
Just working by itself?
Now I had some that do require others, but I just put a little more emphasis on the card that, like, even if you don't draw the right ones, it can still help out. I'll tell you now, and you don't have to say if these made your list, but even though they're favorites of mine, Beta Ray Bill and Thor didn't quite make the cut, because when they really start to ramp up is when you get other cards bringing their hammers back. Even though I try to make that work a lot, I was like, well, there's other cards where your odds of pulling it off are a little better. So that was my thinking. But like I said, I intentionally wanted it to be more subjective. Any arguments I have will strictly be for the sake of creating sensational audio and not an actual principled disagreement.
You mentioned Beta Ray Bill, and he was almost on my list. And this is another aspect that kind of went into my thinking. I was thinking along the lines of point swings as well. Mm-hmm. Granted, he can ramp up the points, but I'm thinking of a swing too, a situation where, okay, I've taken something from them and, I've gained something. So that kind of factored in. You'll probably see that as a theme on all 5 of mine.
I've got a little bit of that.
All right, well, let's get started then. So number 5, I'll go ahead and go first. And again, if you've got it on your list higher, we'll stop and we'll just move forward and talk about it when we get to yours. My number 5 is Gambit.
No, not on my list, but I can understand why it's on yours.
All right. So clearly, just by itself, he can make a big difference. If you hit that Hulk just at the right time and it swings from a 12 point to 0 on that side, and you lay down your 3-point Gambit, that is a big impact. And then if you involve some of the insane combos that you can see. If you can get it just right, you're going to be the only cards left on the board. So I'd say Gambit is going to be my number 5, and he makes an impact. As a matter of fact, the whole point is like when you get hit with one of them cards, it's going to hurt. All right.
Oh, yeah. Okay, my number 5 is a newer one that I am on record here saying I don't like, but I don't like him in the comics. Gore the God Butcher is unfortunately quite effective in Marvel Snap.
Yeah,
I know he's a 6 cost, but he's worth it, especially if you can use someone like Ravana or Mr. Negative to get his cost down even more. You load up your deck with on reveals, your opponent's probably going to have a few. Now, there have been games where he's barely gotten to 5 or 7, but there's also been games where he can close in on 20, and that's starting from a -1.
Yeah.
Well, maybe that's when Mr. Negative, but he's easily worth the 6 points, and it's not too hard to drop that down. So I put Gore at number 5.
He can be pretty high powered, and he can win a lane all by himself sometimes.
Yeah.
It's crazy. All right, then what's your number 4?
My number 4 is a card that's made several of our lists a few times, and you want to talk about point swings. Well, I won't say there's nobody bigger, but for one shot, it's hard to beat Shang-Chi.
Is my number 4 as well.
Okay. Just the other day, I was playing somebody, I think they had a Surtur deck. I could see it coming, and they couldn't. They had like almost 40 points in one lane, and I just dropped Shang-Chi on there and wiped him out. It's not just one card. Man, it stings when he hits you, but oh man, is it satisfying when somebody thinks they've got a lane all sewn up, and you're like, nope. Yeah. Shang-Chi's here to take out the trash.
Shang-Chi, powerful
3 power, but you got to factor in all the points he's wiping off the board.
Yeah, I think one of the combos that I don't think a lot of people, I mean, sometimes you just don't need it, but I've always been kind of gravitating towards Shang-Chi in there. Who else do I need to throw in? Absorbing Man. I'll take care of a card on turn 5 with Shang-Chi, and then Absorbing Man's got there's another lane over there where there's a big heavy hitter. We'll just clear that one out too on turn 6. And
Shang-Chi, to make that work even better, throw Zabu in there and get the Warriors 3 back together.
Right.
One of those characters has an Asgardian connection.
Something. There have been games that have been won just with Shang-Chi.
Oh, absolutely.
That's it all come down to it. It was Shang-Chi that won the games. I 100% agree with you. Great number 4 pick, Shang-Chi. All right, then I go to my number 3. And my number 3 is Fenris Wolf. You can probably tell what inspired this was me playing that Bullseye deck.
Yeah.
And watching Gambit take out a card and then Fenris Wolf bring it back on your side. Like, it's essentially a free card. And not only that, but if you can eliminate more than one card over there, you are going to get the highest powered one. And that's not just destroyed if you're discarding as well. So if you get them to discard, Moon Knight comes into play. Moon Knight is going to discard an even card from their hand. And sometimes they're holding on to that 6-cost card because it's turn 4, turn 5, or whatever. And you have a higher chance. You lay out Moon Knight turn 5, you already got Fenris Wolf out there. You have a higher chance of taking out that higher powered card. And you can just bring it back onto your side and boom, you're swinging things. I like the Gambit Fenris Wolf the most because you are essentially just Oscorping that card. That's you're bringing it from their side and bringing it over to yours. So Fenris Wolf, my number 3. What is your number 3, sir?
Well, some people will disagree with this one, but once I put him on the list, I couldn't take him off. Your mileage may vary, but I think Bruce Banner delivers a lot of bang for the buck if you hit that 25-ish%.
I just did not pull the trigger on Bruce Banner because of that 25 percentile. But man, oh man, you're right. You're going from, is he a 1-2?
He's a 2-1.
That's right. We don't want him to be a 1-2 because he'd get killed by Killmonger, which is not good.
But I mean, if he, all you're out is two cost, and I've seen a lot of decks where you don't even, depending on what you have, you don't even play anything till turn.
Right.
So very low risk, very high reward. And like I said, when we were talking about it for the rival season, I've won games with Banner hulking out. And I've also sat there and watched him do nothing. Kind of like the climax to Trial of the Incredible Hulk, where it's all Daredevil and he never hulks out. But, that was still a good movie. First Stanley Marvel cameo, I believe, at least live action.
Is it really? Oh, wow.
I think. I can't swear to that, but yeah, it's so I mean, yeah, there's a chance that he turns out a dud, but you're not giving up a whole lot for it. When it works, it's nice.
Very nice.
Yeah, I put him in a lot more decks than I put the Hulk in.
I mean, it's a huge swing when you look at it because he's puny banner.
Yeah.
And then boom, you showed, I think you sent me a couple shots. Didn't you have 2 games back and back where it was, he hulked out?
I think so, yeah.
And you won the game because of it?
Yeah.
That's great. All right. That was your number 3. Let's hear number 2.
Number 2, an oldie but a goodie, Sunspot. 1 cost, 0 power. I mean, if Red Guardian or Killmonger gets a hold of him, you've got problems. But otherwise, if you're stuck and can't use up all your energy, that's okay. Roberto DaCosta will take care of it and make sure it doesn't go to waste.
He is such an efficient, very impactful card. Getting him out there.
If you've got Jin or the White Hot Room giving you more power than you know what to do with, or Project Pegasus, that's okay. Roberto will take it.
I like it. I like it. All right. Well, then my number 2, again, going through my head, I'm thinking of point swings. And I don't think, you mentioned this card earlier, I don't think you can get much more of a swing as far as your own cards go than Mr. Negative.
I thought about putting him on there. He almost made my list.
Yeah, he is, I mean, he flips everything in your deck. It's tough. They did a good balance with this card because it's tough to get him. If you don't get him until later, it kind of hurts. Yeah. But man, if you can get him going early, all of those high cost cards that you have sitting in your deck, including Gore, anything that's negative power or anything that's 0 power, such as Iron Man, Arnim Zola,
Ironheart,
you are talking a massive change. So, yeah, he hit my number 2 spot. Number 1 for me, I rest my case on point swings. There have been decks built around this card that are just to do nothing but obliterate your opponent's lane score with negative power.
Some of us got to infinite with one of those decks.
Yes, indeed. When you look at turn 6, you are sitting there and you have negative 15 or something on the right-hand lane. You've got rocks out there at negative power because you did a debris hazmat, and you hit turn 6 and you drop a Nihilus, and a Nihilus throws all those cards over, and what a Nihilus can't throw over, it destroys on your side. So the amount of points that swing in just that one moment,
it really resonates.
It does. It makes an impact on the game. So there you go. Nihilus, my number 1. Evan Bevins, what is your number 1, buddy?
My number 1, it's not a cheap card, but he's pushed a lot of cards out of other decks because he starts high, and if things go right, he just keeps getting higher. That's Red Hulk. I did not do this just to tie in with Brave New World. There was no synergy here, but once I got him, even after they nerfed him and had him only go up 3 instead of 4, I mean, if you get him out there, if you draw him at the beginning of the game, it's +3, whether he's on the board or not, every time your opponent doesn't use all of their energy. And there's plenty of cards like High Evolutionary, Sunspot that reward you for not using all that energy. And Red Hulk's there to say, I'll take it. You don't want to use all your energy? That's okay. I've had him hit 20 before. He just keeps building up. And I mean, yeah, he's 6 cost, but he's worth it, and you don't need to get him out there earlier to reap the benefits. In fact, the longer you can keep him in your hand, the better.
That's the truth, because he's right there at that final moment. If you don't have initiative, you're going to impact the lane for sure with Red Hulk. Yeah, absolutely.
Your opponent sees that you have Red Hulk. Every time he gets power, your opponent knows about it. So they know what's coming, and that can even help you. Maybe you don't get 8 cubes, but that can seal a win, before the end of the game, because they know what's coming. And so they know one lane they're not going to be able to defend. If they don't have the other 2 locked up, they may just throw in the towel.
I have one deck with Red Hulk in it. It's my Black Swan deck. The whole point of that deck is to hold on to all your ones. On turn 3, Guido, Strongman. Turn 4, Dracula. Turn 5, Sandman, activate Black Swan. Meanwhile, you're hoarding 1-cost cards, and Red Hulk's sitting over there just gaining power. And then You activate Black Swan, you drop. The best case scenario is you have Red Hulk in your hand, an Infinite in your hand, and nothing but 1-cost cards. The other 5 are red 1-cost cards. You drop all 5 of your 1-cost cards. You drop Red Hulk, which is going to most likely win you a lane. And then wherever Dracula's at, he's going to eat that. He's going to bite in to the old Infinite and become 20 power. Huge factor. It's like the one deck that I plan on dropping a ton of cards on the final turn. I love having Red Hulk in there, gathering power during that whole time. You're holding on to stuff, just you're not playing anything. So it's a great card. And I like it. It's a good number 1, man.
And he works in just about any deck. There was a while that I was like, well, why would I put this card in when I could just have Red Hulk?
Yeah. Ladies and gentlemen, that is our top 5. Go see the Red Hulk in Brave New World at a local theater Valentine's Day.
Now, if you find a woman who that is her ideal Valentine's Day date, hang on to her.
Oh, yeah. All right, man, let's get into plugs. What do you got going on?
Well, over at asterisk51.blogspot.com, I really am almost done with the amalgam issues, but life keeps getting in the way. And then the Super Bowl. I could have taken the easy way out and just not done anything new since the Eagles and the Chiefs just played 2 years ago. And I wrote blog posts with comic characters corresponding to each of them. But I've got a little something new for each of them that hopefully will be out before the actual game. If not, then I'm going to be messaging you and saying, hey, Jesse, can you edit out that last part where I said I was doing Super Bowl posts? But maybe this will make sure it happens. One of them's pretty well done. So I'm revisiting the character I featured for the Chiefs, and I've got a new parallel for the Eagles.
Okay. All right. That's cool.
We do this every month. Sometimes I jump on some of your other shows, and Billy D over at Magazines and Monsters is kind enough to have me talk about crazy Bob Haney adventures in DC in the Bronze Age, and inexplicably horror movies centered around water.
All right.
Yep. Yeah, I found one random one called The She-Gods of Shark Reef, and he said, let's talk about that. And then he said, I found this early Dennis Hopper movie called Night Tide. So he says we're going to talk about more movies, and I'm like, what, does it have to be about water?
Yeah, might as well.
So check that out as well.
All right. Well, ladies and gentlemen, you can check out other stuff that I do here on the feed. We talk Marvel Snap here about once a month. We get together about 3 to 4 different 20-minute shows, 20 to 30-minute shows. We also have a battle that shows up on the YouTube page. If you get a chance, go check those out. You can also check out the Source Material Comics podcast. That happens on this feed as well. It is a podcast about comic books of any era. We have the Unspoken Issues podcast that is dedicated solely to 90s comics in affiliation with the Unspoken Decade. So if you get a chance and you're interested in 90s comics, should be able to find a bunch of that stuff out there in the archive. I'll push the YouTube. If y'all get a chance, go check out the YouTube page. Just type in the Source Material Comics podcast. Should be able to find it pretty easily. We have just about everything that we've done in the past 2 or 3 years on there. Should be able to find all the podcasts. Should be able to section out into each one, and some video goodness as well. With that being said, we are getting out of here. That's Evan Bevins. I'm Jesse Starcher. We'll talk to you hopefully there next month. Have a good one. Bye-bye.